Hi, I'm Bill Arnold. Thank you for listening to this podcast of Real Recovery. There are many more podcasts available at myfaithradio.com. Your support makes this possible. Thank you. Welcome to Real Recovery. Bill Arnold on this side of the studio, and just across the way, George P. Fraser. Hello, George.
Billy, how are you?
I'm good. Look who's on the board tonight.
Yes.
Wyatt Morrell. Wyatt matters.
Yeah, I've heard that on your show.
Yeah, that's on my afternoon show.
He does.
He does. So thank you very much for helping out tonight. Great topic tonight, George. We're going to talk about food addiction. So pretty much everyone who listens is going to have an interest in tonight's show, because if you eat, you may have had times when you were craving specific foods when you weren't even hungry, or you were eating past the place of being full, maybe even to the place of discomfort. You've done that before, George, haven't you? Like
yes.
Thanksgiving, that kind of stuff. Or maybe things are a little bit worse and you hide food or sneak food. And you feel guilty about how you feel after eating, because you're repeating this cycle of hiding, eating, maybe binging, purging, all of that. And you've got trigger foods that can lead to all kinds of eating issues. And tonight we're going to just see what the Lord has to say on that topic. And Dr. Rhona Epstein is going to join us in just a minute. She's written a couple of books on it, and she's been in the field for 35 plus years and is really an expert.
We had her on the show before, and she was great. It's been quite a while, but somebody that's walked the walk and thoroughly knows her subject matter and how to deal with people and help them. So I'm really looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, and because I think there's some emotional distress, emotional events tied to eating. You get off a stressful phone call, you look for something to eat, you feel disappointed that the sales call you were on didn't work out, or something happened, and there's a lot of reasons to try to reward yourself and change how you feel, and food's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, it's one of the easiest way to do it, and it's legal.
Exactly.
Which never stopped me before, but that's a whole nother show. I think that when we look back to it, we're about the same age growing up, we had Sugar Pop, Sugar Crisp. Can't get enough Super Sugar Crisp. Remember that?
No,
and
yeah.
You have a hot chocolate, and you got sugary cereal, and it jacks you up, and you go. My family was in the candy business. I'm sure sugar was my first addiction. And for a lot of people, that really takes over their lives. We have eating disorders. They're rarely talked about. But I think the hardest thing to overcome, Bill, is an eating disorder. And I think tonight we should look at step one, where we admitted we're powerless over drugs and alcohol, and a lot of times food, and that our life is unmanageable. And we need, first of all, to pray to God to give us the power, strength, and desire to change this and turn it over. And you can work the 12 steps with this very well. But people die from this, suicides, and people get anorexic and they die, and it's a very serious deal. And I think it's the hardest addiction to stop, because you have to eat every day.
So true. I know Rhona's program of recovery involves the 12 steps, and we're going to let her talk about that a little bit tonight. But of the 12 steps, George, when it comes to a food addiction, what of this 12 steps comes to your mind right away?
Well, I was thinking step one, and that's why I said that about the powerlessness. And I think for all recoveries, and I've never been to rehab for an eating disorder. My eating isn't stellar. It's always enjoyable, so I got to go with that one. But I think it would come to powerlessness, because you need a power greater than yourself to help you change. And you have to be given the gift of desperation to really want to do it, because you're giving up a pleasure source that actually works for you till it doesn't. It appears to work for you.
Let's pick a step to talk about tonight. Let's talk about step one a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I know that's where you're going with this anyway, but the powerlessness, we come by it honestly because we start when we're young. The minute we're starting to eat solid food, we're getting cake and treats and ice
Love
cream.
treats.
I know
Love
you do.
cake.
I know you do. So we come by it honestly. We get conditioned at a very young age to like sweets.
And a lot of the TV advertising of the cartoons that we watch.
That's not influential, though.
Oh, yeah.
Those ads.
Candy bars and sweet tarts and all that.
Did you have a honeycomb hideout? I bet you did.
That was a cereal. Wasn't
Yeah,
it
it was a cereal.
No, I was more of a Captain Crunch guy, Frosted Flakes, because they're great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just loaded with sugar.
You know, he was not an actual admiral, just so you know, Captain Crunch.
Really?
Yeah, it was a fictitious character. I know you thought that he came from real life, but he
okay,
didn't.
you slam the chicken guy, and I'm coming over there.
I'm not going to do that.
Okay. But, it's something we're ingrained with, and I don't know anybody who doesn't struggle with some type of eating issue.
Yeah. We're going to break it down tonight, though. We're going to talk about the times of the day in which you eat, because do you just eat your meals and then do you add snacks in? What do you do? I mean, and when you're snacking, George, what are you doing? Are you hungry, or are you just bored, or are you just trying to change the way you feel?
How about D? All the above.
Yeah, that would work too. That would work too. So we have to be careful. We have to trust the Lord that He's going to lead us in how we eat and the foods we put in our body, because our bodies are a temple of the Holy Spirit. We want to be good stewards of what God's given us. We want to eat whole foods and good foods, and be careful that we don't get addicted to sugar, right?
Yeah, we wouldn't want that.
We wouldn't want that. I'm talking to a guy whose family ran a candy business, so I'm probably
We
talking
sold
to the
it,
wrong
though,
guy.
so I want everybody to get healthy now.
Yeah,
because I care about
exactly, because you care now. So you're listening to Rural Recovery with Bill and George, and we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have our guest, Dr. Rhona Epstein, with us. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the show. So glad to be talking about tonight's topic, which is, again, food addiction. George, this is a topic that involves virtually everybody at some point, because we all need to eat, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I would think it's the hardest to recover from or to live with, in that you have to eat every day, or if you're an alcoholic, you just abstain from drinking. If I had to have 3 drinks a day, I'm not doing this program.
No, that's true. But we do want to eat to change the way we feel, and it's one of the quickest ways to change the way you feel is with food.
Certainly.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's an emotional event. Are you eating because you're hungry, or you're eating to try to change how you feel?
To reward myself after a hard workout.
Exactly. Fortunately, we have got a leading expert on food addiction recovery. Dr. Rhona Epstein has agreed to join the program, and we're glad to have her back on again after a little short hiatus. Rhona, welcome back.
Hi, it's so good to be here.
Thank you. You know, we've had a number of stations that have joined the Faith Radio Network, and fortunately, our audience is growing. And many people don't know your story. So I'd love for you to share your recovery journey starting when you were 17.
Okay, well, that's when my recovery journey started. Should I tell you a little bit about how I got to the place where I needed recovery?
Oh, of course.
Okay, well, so when I was born, I say probably, food issues start really young, right? Those of us with drugs and alcohol problems don't usually start till we're like teenagers, but people with food problems can start really young. So usually when you're listening to stories like mine, you find that there's kind of crazy behavior that starts even when you're a child. And so I was a little girl who was totally preoccupied with sweets. I was the kid who ate the whole box of Pop-Tarts and the whole box of Captain Crunch. And I was always, if there was candy or cookies around, I was obsessed with it. And so it's like I think we don't realize it's a fix, like you guys were talking about in the beginning. You don't realize that you're changing your mood. I don't think anybody really saw it as a drug, right? You're warned about drugs and alcohol, but nobody warns you that sugar, other than they warn you you'll get fat. But we worry about our weight, but we don't really understand the many other reasons why sugar is a problem. Now we're starting to understand. But certainly no one understood why they shouldn't leave me with a box of double stuffed Oreos and what that was doing to my brain and my feelings about myself and my functioning and my ability to process feelings and everything. So yeah, I had a problem, and like all addictions, it was a progressive problem. It got worse and worse and worse over time. The obsession, the cravings, the out of control. I mean, stealing, hiding, sneaking. There was kind of crazy behavior. Same kind of things you see with substance abuse. If you look up in the diagnostic and statistic manual about what addiction substance abuse looks like, you can see the that's me, except for my drug of choice was sugar. So that's the backdrop. And by the time I was 17, I was so messed up that I, felt like I could rather die than live, because, I was trying, it was like a double life, trying to pretend to be normal in front of everybody else, but, sneaking and hiding half gallons of ice cream and then trying to get rid of my weight by starving between the binges and then going to the gym and running and swimming and taking amphetamines that I got from the guy down the street, hoping that somehow that would help. But then I was smoking pot. Of course, that kind of they washed each other out. But there's a lot of crazy behavior. Um, I needed help. And who knew that, eventually I ended up getting my help through a recovery group. It was a miracle because it was either that or I felt like I would rather die. So, yeah, so that's sort of the backstory.
Yeah. So, Rona, you did the binging and purging. Was that a regular part of your weekly routine?
Yeah, maybe besides the starving all day and
Yeah.
then binging, I was purging, trying to keep myself from being severely obese. I would have, I mean, if I had just not done all that, I probably would have been very big. But I think I managed to keep my weight. I was still a little overweight, but I would have been a lot more overweight.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have been at least 200 or 300 pounds for sure, the way I
Mm-hmm.
was eating. Yeah.
Yeah. So, when you are growing up as a little girl, obviously there's rewards that parents have. Here's a cookie after a long day at school, and here's dessert and a birthday cake. Was there any kind of control that your parents were trying to say, Rona, maybe you shouldn't spoil your appetite eating that because we're having a nice, nutritious dinner? How did that work? You were hiding things and trying to work around their meal plan for you. How did that work?
Yeah, my parents, I always say they were kind of asleep at the wheel.
Okay, all right.
I don't really think they were quite. I just got a lot of judgment and criticism because I was getting chubby. But the thing that's so crazy about the whole thing is that, as fast as the food was disappearing, it was getting replaced. So, it really, I had, these enablers. My mom, I'd say my dad was in on it too, but I don't really think they understood what they were doing. I mean, clearly they didn't. There was no, they were just mad at me for getting overweight. So the focus was on the weight, not on the food behavior.
You,
So,
back then, of course, now I got a bias here. My family was in the candy manufacturing business. And so my love of white powder started with sugar. And
yeah.
and I think back then nobody, talked about it. We always had candy and cookies, and you were talking about double stuffed Oreos. After I quit drinking, I put on a lot of weight, and I couldn't get over 200 until they came out with the chocolate covered Oreos, and I hit 206. And then I thought I got to change it. But I still eat candy. I love it. I try to watch it, but it does give you a jolt, you know? And the last time you did our show, I'm thinking it would probably be 10 years ago, you talked about the things that are really addictive are like sweet and salty. And after you said that show, I had to stop eating my favorite snack bars because you're right, you have like three of them.
Sorry.
No, but that was just kind of normal growing up. And I never looked at it until I got real heavy. And then I started working out, and I think I became an exercise bulimic. But in recovery, and I got sober at 27, a lot of the women I knew that were on running teams and that were bulimic, And I never realized how common it is.
Yeah. Well, it is. I mean, and you can't tell when you're dealing with bulimia, you can't tell. I mean, I've had beautiful people in my office, men and women, who, they just do, it's like 2 or 3 hours of working out a day, and, they're eating, an entire sheet cake when no one's looking, just completely out of control. And, and it's such a sickness. And what's so difficult about that is if you look good, people think you're okay. And that is really tough, even in the support groups. The folks who have that looking good exterior, when they're going into the support group, the other people tend to look at them as they're not really that bad, as
Well,
if somehow that
yeah,
they couldn't.
what kind of modality do these support groups use that are successful?
Well, in the world of eating disorders, there's a lot of controversy. So, I mean, I'll stick to my lane. I mean, I use in my own recovery the addictions model, but it's not a popular model amongst other eating disorders professionals. So, like, I think Bill, you said something about, or one of you said in the beginning, I can't imagine having a drink 3 times a day. Was that you, George, who
That was
said that?
George. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, in the addictions model, there's abstinence from the addictive foods, right? So, I mean, I don't eat the foods that I can't stop eating. Somebody said this at a meeting the other day, if I can't eat it safely, that was a good word. I like that. And so, yeah, I can't have Oreos 3 times a day. I mean, what I eat at my meals that are clean meals are not addictive, right? So, and that's a very different thing. There's, I mean, you drink water, so you just don't drink alcohol. So it's not that you don't drink, you don't drink what you're addicted to. So a person who, the way that for people with food addiction, it's recommended to have a structured way of eating and to avoid the addictive foods completely, like to abstain completely. So, like for myself, I haven't had sweets like sugar. I'm not saying I don't, I've used artificial sweeteners. So there's controversy about that. But personally, I can put stevia in my plain yogurt or in my coffee or tea, and I'm not going to want to go to town on that.
Mm.
But there are people who can't even do that. It triggers them. And so, everybody's a little bit different about, having to find, what they need to do in order to stay out of trouble. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference between, in terms of food behavior, like how you eat. The preferred method is eat like in a routine. So you don't just haphazardly eat so that you don't, and, protects you from emotional eating. Right. The fact that I eat 3 times a day, if I feel, bored or irritated, in the evening, well, I'm already done my eating. So I got to find some other way to deal with that. Food's
So,
not one of the choices.
okay, so is it like, addiction from chemicals in that once you stop the using, usually there's a lot of other work that needs to be done on the issues of why we did the behavior. Does that correlate to eating as well?
100%. And even more so because it's so easy to fall into trouble with food. So if you don't deal with your issues, you're much more at risk. You have to learn how to cope with all your feelings and all the people issues and all the things. Yeah.
I know for a
So,
while there was a high rate correlation between the people that had the gastric bypass operation becoming chemically dependent.
mhm. Yeah, well, that's exactly the point. If you don't deal with your issues, you still have you're fixing the body, but you're not fixing the mind.
Hmm. Rhona, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back from the break, I want to ask you about, let's go into the deep end of the pool when it comes to sugar, because if you are consuming sugar, which is a highly addictive substance, I think it's sending a signal to your hypothalamus that just keeps saying more, more, more. So the hormones that produced your satiety signals are not ever letting you down. They're not ever saying, we've had enough, because
Yeah,
you're addicted to sugar. And if we
exactly.
can get that addiction out of our system, the normal satiety signals will say, we've had enough. And that makes all the difference from what I understand. We'll take a break. You're listening to Real Recovery with Bill and George. Dr. Rhona Epstein is our guest. You can learn more about her at Dr. Rhona, RHONA.com, drrhona.com. You can go and look at her amazing book. She's written a book called Food Triggers and another one called Satisfied. And there's workbooks and journals and guides to eating well. We'll be right back. We're back with Dr. Rhona Epstein. And Rhona, during the break, George corrected me. He didn't want to do it on air because he didn't want to embarrass me. But he said I had mentioned that signals were sent to the hypothalamus saying we need more. And George said it's not sent to the hypothalamus, it's sent to the brain. So anyway, he corrected me. He just was nice enough to not do it on air.
Nice
See
about it,
that?
yeah.
Right, to the brain.
Yeah. But anyway, when we've got this sugar addiction, we don't have enough ever, do we?
That's the whole thing. And like I said, it's a big controversy in the eating disorders world. They don't believe in abstinence. So, and a lot of people they just try to deal with all the underlying issues, the emotions, the family issues, just trying to find a way to kind of cope and deal and do mindful eating. And they don't address it as an addiction, even though there's a lot of research now that is able to see in the brain exactly what you're saying, that the way the brain lights up, even looking at a sweet treat. There are people who just, it's the same as alcohol, it's the same as cocaine. As a matter of fact, they say it's sugar's 8 times more addictive than cocaine.
I don't know if I'd go 8 times, maybe 5.
Well, that's what the research
No,
says.
just my research, and I don't want to do any more research, but yeah, it's very powerful. But, there's a huge reward with it. So when people look at people that are struggling with it, why don't you just quit? The problem is it becomes your solution, your reward, and the one thing you look for, and it works every time you do it.
Yeah, even though there's a lot of kickback. I mean, obviously it works, but then like so many addictive behaviors, you feel better for for the short run, but then you are sorry, you're sick. I mean, people they're still binging on junk food even though they have serious health consequences, and wake up with, feeling really bad. You can have brain fog, and there's some of the same kinds of stuff that you see where, I know sometimes people may not realize it, but people who are food addicts can be moody and completely withdraw from people. They don't want to be, you binge, you feel really bad about yourself. You don't want to go into public. You don't want to be social. You don't want to be sexual. I mean, there's just a lot of ways that it affects you. It's not just, you don't just feel good. You actually feel pretty lousy in the long haul.
So I want to ask you about what you said before. Professionally looking at it in the chemical dependency world, it was always said to treat the addiction first. And I was a counselor for a long time. I let my license go a couple of years ago, but I still do volunteer work. And my clients have gotten worse and worse over the years, as has society, I guess, to where I'm not sure mentally they can hear what I'm saying. So the old way of looking at that, treating the addiction first, I don't think works anymore as well. How is that in eating disorders? Do you still treat the addiction first, or do you multidisciplinary approach to it? How do you do it?
Well, I think it's a great question. And I've been a counselor for a really, really long time. And I've never answered that question one way or the other in both with substance abuse, because I used to work as a substance abuse counselor, and with food. I know there are people who think that it's this way or it's that way, but I actually don't think it goes one way or the other. I think for some people, they can't get anywhere until they get the substance out of their system, and some people can't give it up until they start doing some work. So I do think that it depends. And so if a person, because I see people beating it, I gotta stop beating, I gotta stop beating. I'm like, you know what? Maybe you need to feel better. Maybe you need your support system stronger. Maybe you need to get some of the cobwebs out first, where you can feel empowered a little bit more before you're going to be ready to give it up, because the food's serving a purpose. It's meeting needs. It's comfort. It's, whatever, all the things, why the reasons why you're going to it. Maybe you need to take some of those reasons away
Gr-
before the person to be ready.
Great answer. Thank you. Really nice.
Yeah, not everybody would agree with that, but that's, you asked me my opinion, so.
Well, I did, and I think it really comes down, the longer I do this to the individual, there's not just one set formula that works. And as you know from working with people, sometimes years later, they'll tell you, when you said this, it really helped me. And it wasn't something that I thought was that important, but it's what people hear. I think God speaks to people through the therapist quite often.
Yeah, I think so. And you're right. It's seeds get planted, right? And sometimes it's great when you get that back. Then I love it. I'd be like, I said
Always,
that.
always take credit for it, even if you didn't say it. But everything we have, we got from somebody else, right?
Right, somewhere it's all in there somehow, right? Just thank God if he uses it for good, that's all good, right?
Yeah. Rhona, I know you're pretty structured about your meals. Tell me what your thoughts are on snacking.
Well, when it comes to people who are trying to do food recovery with an addictions model, I
Hmm.
think it's helpful to have, if a person does snacks, that they have them in their plan as a solid sort of, like if I have a plan that has snacks in it, the snack is a stable part of the routine, not a haphazard thing. So if it's 3 meals and an afternoon snack, or 3 meals and a mid-morning snack, depending on a person's lifestyle, or their blood sugar, or maybe they working out, they need a little boost, something between a mid-morning. Some people need more smaller meals. So there's nothing wrong with it, but what's wrong for a person who has addictive tendencies is having to keep on reinventing the wheel, thinking about food, making up plans, or as they should I, shouldn't I? You don't want that. You want the noise and the chatter to go away. So having a regular routine, and makes the noise stop. It's just sort of like, I know I eat 3 meals and one snack. It's the snack is a part of the routine. It's like brushing your teeth in the morning. You just do the routine. I think that makes it a little easier, because people who leave it too open end up in the slipping, it just gives too much room for slipping, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And do you think that snacks, or if you have had a meal at noon and at 1:30 you're finding yourself you want to eat something, do you think that that's a response to an emotional event, or I just got off a stressful phone call? Where's that jar of candy? I just want something. Do you think that that's a habit that people get into that have a sugar addiction?
Of course.
Yeah.
And so, and I talked about it like it's like brain training. Like you want to, if you just keep giving in to the urge, like, I hear this with people. I'm like, you think you're going to starve to death between lunch and dinner? Like, nobody's starving to death. right? And I think it's like training ourselves into the routine and out of the idea that every time you get an urge, you have to give into it. Because if eventually you teach yourself to do other things with those uncomfortable feelings that come up at 1:30 when and the urge and it comes, for people who have food addictions, it oftentimes it's not until you get solid into recovery. What happens is I always say it's like on your radar. What happens on your brain in your brain is I want food. It's not I feel irritated, I feel tired, I don't want to work. It could be any number of emotions. You're angry at somebody, but none of those feelings come. It just comes, oh, I think I need something to eat. I'm hungry. And there's no awareness emotionally. It's just not even there. You don't even know you don't feel like doing your work. You don't even know that you're bored. You just want to eat. And if you train yourself to just eat your meals and then you have to learn your feelings so that you can learn what you really need at 1:30 when you don't really need food.
That's really well said. That's very, very helpful. So I'm so curious about the way you love to integrate 12-step recovery principles when helping people recover from a food addiction.
Yeah, I think the 12 steps are a wonderful way of helping a person to bring, it's spiritual and emotional. There's so much. So what can we talk about? So there's 12-step programs. Thankfully, since the pandemic, one of the blessings of the pandemic is that doesn't matter where you live now, you can just go on Zoom any time of the day or night. You can eat. I always tell people who are worried about their anonymity, you can just go in another part of the world. Nobody has to know you. You can go anonymously anywhere. There are so many meetings. Um, and so I think with food recovery, you've got to really work to find the right meetings because there's a lot of stuff that goes on that's some good, some not so good. I'm sure that's true for other 12-step programs. You've got the more militaristic, sort of legalistic type folks, and then you've got grace people, and I'm a grace person. So I don't recommend usually legalistic, but there's a lot of that out there, and I think some of the food programs get a bad rap because of that, because people don't like to be put in straitjackets. So you got to kind of find your tribe, find your people. But the 12 steps themselves, and this is a thing, the 12 steps themselves is a great healing journey, right? If you realize that without God's help, you're on your own, you don't have the power to fix it. You need the power of God and being able to invite God in and really surrender and realize you're in partnership with him and that you let him lead you. And I mean, I can talk all day about this, just this. I love the 12 steps. They transform my life. I don't think I'd be sitting here today if it wasn't for the 12 steps. I wouldn't be a believer if it wasn't for the 12 steps, because it was in wrestling through those 12 steps that I found a relationship with God. And so much of the inner parts of my soul that were broken and the relational parts that needed to be healed, all of that. And then, I just think it's a great process for healing and for staying close to God and staying on top of your stuff so that you don't build up the kinds of things that send you back into the trouble. So it's just a great, well designed program.
Yeah, it's definitely godly inspired, not inerrant, but it's definitely godly inspired. And I really liked what you said. I had a lot of knowledge about God. I was a Christian, but I never had a relationship with Jesus till I did the 12 steps. And I think a lot of the recovery rooms mimic the early church. Um,
Hmm.
and so for me, when I'm working with people, I tell them to find one that's structured enough to use the 12 steps. But I always look at the laughter in the room
Hmm.
because the people that quit drinking and doing drugs are usually pretty interesting people that like to have a good time. And that'll
Yeah,
keep you coming back.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah. It's it's the fellowship is it can be amazing if you hit the right place.
Hmm.
So,
We're going to take a little break. Be right back with Dr. Rhona Epstein. Learn more about her at drrhona, RHONA.com, drrhona.com. We'll be right back. We are back with Dr. Rhona Epstein. George, I have to say, this is a very interesting topic, and it applies to everyone.
It's got my attention.
I know it does. I was having breakfast about 6 months ago, Rhona, with a friend of mine who's a physician, and he said, we grew up during an era where the music was amazingly good, and we should have those tunes in our head all the time. But he said, I wake up this morning and I have this tune in my head. Oh, 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 Ozempic.
oh
Yeah.
no.
And he said, that's not the jingle I should have in my head, but we get
No.
we get bombarded with advertisements for these GLP-1 treatments. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, okay. So originally, when I first started hearing about them, I was completely closed, and then I tried to listen because that's what you should do. And so I listened to some of my colleagues who I respect, and they helped me to broaden my view about it. So I think that there's a place for them um, with regards to food addiction. The thing I get concerned about, people who struggle with weight, we're all looking for a magic cure. And if you could take a potion and it fixes your outside of your body, your body, and you could look good, people would rather do that than actually have a healing transformation experience. That's way harder, right? If you could stick yourself with a needle, and your weight just magically comes off, that's sort of like, seems much easier. But I don't think, like you mentioned earlier, somebody, people kind of switching addictions. So okay, let me say the positive. I like that for some people, many, that it actually can help to reduce cravings and cut down on appetite. And if a person is really motivated for a holistic wellness journey, it could be a tool. That's how I see it in a positive way. I want to try to say those people who I work with who are using it as a tool, as a part of a mind, body, and spirit experience, not just the only thing. If a person's just doing it to lose weight, I would get concerned that at some point it's going to backfire on them in some way. I just feel like they're missing out on the transformation. And I don't, I don't want to judge. I mean, who am I to say? Like, I have a neighbor who has lost an enormous amount of weight, and I'm pretty sure she does not see herself as a food addict. She's taken the medication, it's her weight's coming off. She's eating whatever junk food she wants. I'm pretty sure she's not getting healthy. And but God forbid if she has to go off the medicine, because I've gotten these calls, people saying the insurance took away my medicine and now I've gained all my weight back. So basically, their change is completely dependent on staying on the medicine for the rest of their
Oh,
lives.
my.
So basically, that's the problem I have. If a person is not, if they take it and it helps reduce cravings, and that gives them a clearer mind so they can concentrate on a change, and they're willing to then learn how to eat right and to experience their feelings and have a deeper spiritual experience, then it's good. But if they're not willing to have a transformation, I just think it's going to be a part of the roller coaster. Does that make sense?
That makes
Yes.
ton of sense. Mm-hmm.
How about early in the therapy that they get on it, so it gives them a little hope, kind of like when you're getting off opioids, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
But if you have to stay on it, I don't know. I'm all for, like, back in the day, abuse, right?
Right.
If a guy takes it, so he doesn't drink because it'll get them really sick. But of course, everybody who got on it that I worked with wanted to see how sick they'd get,
I know,
which
right?
I appreciate as a recovering person. Um, but it helped them. It's like crutches when you break your leg. But you want to use the crutches your whole life. Kind of what it gets down to, I think.
Exactly. Exactly. And and so unless a person really is committed to change, I mean, and maybe somebody doesn't really care. Maybe that, and that's what I have to be careful about my own judgment because I would like for everyone to have real, like how sometimes people say we're like a grateful recovering person. It's like the gratitude is not that that we suffered, but the blessings that come from going through a recovery journey are immense. Like I would not trade as much as I hated my life as a food addict and I would never want to go back there. I am so grateful for the whole journey. It's not necessarily been an easy journey, but I wouldn't trade it. I think it's been a wonderful experience to learn the lessons that you learn in recovery. And basically what the people are trying to do is just skip over all that and not really have a true healing experience.
That was really well said. I would not be a Christian if I hadn't been an addict. And
Me too.
I would not have the gift of desperation that I had at the end and still do. And the
Exactly.
best part is what you're doing is working with other people. I can't see God, but I can sure see what he does in people, bringing back dead people and making them alive again. And I never want to miss the miracle because anybody who gets sober or, deals with an eating disorder and has success, that's a true miracle that comes from God, whether they give him credit or not.
Exactly. Exactly.
Rona, do we have an overemphasis on social and eating events? It seems that there's so many social events revolve around food. And it seems that if we took some of the emphasis off that and put emphasis on more activities that were out and involve moving versus sitting and eating, that would be a good trend.
Sure would. And I'm sure most of my clients would be very grateful because it's very challenging in food recovery to be faced with, I mean, that you have bad FOMO, right? Because
Yeah.
there it is. There, you're trying to, you want to be like people with their own families and culturally. I mean, you could just go on all day about this. I mean, you have so many things like people go on vacation, and the expectation is that, oh, calories don't count when you're on vacation, right? So people,
Right.
right,
Heard that.
and it's like people just unplug and so if you it's today, I mean, I love the beach, right? But for me, the things I love about the beach have nothing to do with the junk food on the boardwalk. It has to do with the ocean and the sun and the sky. And I mean, I love to be at the ocean. I think it's one of God's most amazing creations. I love to just sit there and like be in awe. And if you get to sell it to do that with people that you love, then and it's the people and the beach, and the ocean, or taking a nice long walk on the beach, but for many people, it's about the food,
Yeah.
and it's all tangled up.
Right. But when you are in a food addiction and you're getting an invitation to come to an eating event of some kind that involves all
Right.
kinds of foods you need to avoid, and yet you do want to be social and you would like to attend,
Right.
but you got to watch your own back. How do you pull that off?
Well, that's it. There's I recommend that people, first of all, find out what's going to be served so they aren't surprised when they get there if there's nothing that they can eat. I recommend bringing along, like, contributing, making a healthy contribution, making sure that you have what you need. Um, I think for some situations, if you have to eat your meal before you go and then socialize after the meal, I mean, um, sometimes it means just getting used to like, okay, well, they're going to be eating this, but I'm going to be eating that, and just kind of sucking it up because you're not, we're not like other people. I mean, you wouldn't tell an alcoholic, well, you should just drink because everybody else is drinking. Um, and yet it is hard. I mean, it's really hard because the truth is most people in the world do not understand this addiction or this recovery. And it could look, people have opinions and judgments about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think
And it could be nasty.
I think most people are more concerned with their eating and drinking than they are with you. I found that out. I was really worried about that. Always going with a Pellegrino in hand. I still do that today.
Right.
And most people are really too concerned about themselves. So it's easier than you think, but it's a tough habit to start.
Yeah, right, that's right. And it's true. And you have to be convinced inside of yourself. And I'm like you, I would go with my Pellegrino to a gathering. And I mean, you can go ahead and laugh at me. I'm going home with my head on straight. You can think whatever you want. I mean, those people don't know what I'm like if I'm not doing the right thing.
Amen. That's a wise, wise thing to say. So I want to let people know what's available for them from your resources. You have a book called Food Triggers: End Your Cravings, Eat Well, and Live Better. That's available, and I'd love for you to talk about your devotional called Satisfied. It is about a 90-day devotional.
Yes, Satisfied is actually it's been a bestseller, and it's probably most of the people who I know who read my things, that's everybody's favorite book.
Okay.
That and the Satisfied Workbook, I think, are the two favorites. But these are based on the 12-step philosophy, but even though it's not, well, the workbook is a 12-step workbook, but the devotional has like the scriptures and the messages have a recovery orientation, even though they're not directly the steps. So it kind of takes you through a lot of surrender, and it takes you through, like, facing the problem, but it's an active devotional. So you're actually asked questions to ponder and reflect on. But the scripture, what I love the best about Satisfied, and I personally, I go back over it with, I use it with clients and groups, and so when they're going through it, I'm going through it again. But for me, it's the scriptures, right? Because these are the verses that just help to cut down on the shame and help you realize God's power in the weakness, and help you to think about how God can help with all the underlying issues. And it sort of touches on all the things that are related to the food problem, and just inviting God in every day for 90 days. So yeah, if anybody's looking for something, that's definitely one of the favorites. I know people who read it over and over and over.
I have a question for you. I have a friend that works out a lot, and sometimes during his workout, he thinks about the candy bar he's going to have after. If he started eating carrots and stuff, would he crave carrots?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I'll tell him that. I'll
Yeah.
let him know that.
Yeah. Just go look in
Yeah.
the mirror. Is that what you're going to do? That's what I thought.
So when you start doing it, though, it's because you stay in it like other behavior changes. You feel better, you look better, and it works better for you, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it does work better. But yeah, I still think you need to have your support system to kind of keep you working on the things that are all the thing, like we said, there's the underlying issues.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, because I don't think just yes, you feel better for sure. If you eat right, you're going to feel better. I love it when I hear people say, I can think straight, and I'm sleeping better, and I'm so glad not to be feeling like a food fog all the time, and like the brain fog. And it's amazing how much better you feel. But that's not enough motivation. It's not. It's the power of God, it's the spiritual transformation. It's kind of staying in that in the growth, and that's the stuff that really keeps you going.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What a great way to end. Thank you so much, Rhona, for doing the show. It's great to have you back on again.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's great being with you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Rhona Epstein has been our guest. Go learn more about her at drrhona.com. That's our show for the week. George, again, another award-winning show.
Great show.
Yeah. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Programming like this is made available through your support. Information available at myfaithradio.com.
What if the deepest wounds in your story could lead you closer to God?
I just had this strong sense that this was the beginning of a new life for our family, a new creation story.
What if the fear that holds you back is the very thing Jesus wants to heal?
Where did you learn that fear? Because you did not learn it from God.
My name is Susie Larson, and on my podcast, Susie Larson Live, every weekday we open the mic for honest conversations about faith, healing, health, and identity in Christ.
With your DNA, you are a victim. With my DNA, you are more than a conqueror.
Whether it's trauma, temptation, or the lie that says you'll never be free.
I'm prone to go to slavery, to go back to laws, but what we really want is freedom.
We talk about grief and grit, mental health and miracles, healing and holy expectancy, because you were made for more, not just to survive, but to live deeply, love bravely, and walk boldly with Jesus. Susie Larson Live. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search Susie Larson Live.